Hello, my name is Annika Ketchum, and welcome to my TED Talk. Today we are going to be taking an in-depth look at the two frames at work in regards to abortion rights in the United States, and in an analysis of where we currently stand with legislation, observe how those in office right now are swaying legislation in the opposite direction of the laws and guidelines outlined in Roe v. Wade. To begin, I'm going to present to you a brief history of the legislation surrounding female abortion rights. In an article published on March 28, 2014, written by OBOS abortion contributors on the Our Bodies Ourselves website, they clearly outline historically defining moments regarding abortion in the U.S. legislation. According to Our Bodies Ourselves, in the United States, abortion was widely practiced before about 1880, by which time most states have banned it except to save the life of a woman. In 1973, Roe v. Wade occurred. According to Britannica's definition of Roe v. Wade, Roe v. Wade is a legal case in which the U.S. Supreme Court on January 22, 1973, ruled that unduly restrictive state regulation of abortion is unconstitutional. In a majority opinion written by Justice Harry A. Blackmun, the court held that a set of Texas state statutes criminalizing abortion in most instances violated a woman's constitutional right of privacy, which is found to be implicit in the liberty guaranteed of the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. Another important act of legislation regarding abortion and outlined in the article on ourbodiesourselves.org was the Hyde Amendment. In 1976, Congress passed the Hyde Amendment, which banned the use of federal funding for abortion care, except in limited cases, and most states followed, instituting bans in their state Medicaid programs. Our Bodies Ourselves leads us to proof that Roe v. Wade has continuously been challenged by different acts in Congress for the past 45 years. Our Bodies Ourselves cites the Guttmacher Institute in their article regarding the history of abortion in the United States. Our Bodies Ourselves refers to information gathered by the Guttmacher Institute in saying, according to the Guttmacher Institute, since the 1973 Roe v. Wade decision, states have enacted 1,074 abortion restrictions. More than one quarter of these restrictions were passed between 2010 and 2015. In 2015 alone, conservative lawmakers considered nearly 400 bills to limit a woman's access to legal abortion and passed 57 new restrictions. With this taken into consideration, it can be seen that the laws and rules put in place by legislation have been swaying back and forth since the 20th century due to who is in power. The framing of both the pro-life and pro-choice movements and what they determine as the problem at large has direct impact on legislation, because those in the White House must make a decision based on their perspectives and which framework they support and agree with. For those of you who aren't aware of the exact definition of what framing is, Charlotte Ryan, a sociology professor at the University of Massachusetts Lowell, gives a clear definition of it in her book Primetime Activism, Media Strategies for Grassroots Organizing. According to Ryan's book, framing is how pieces of information are selected and organized to produce stories that make sense to their writers and audiences. She continues by saying, framing is more than a process of interpreting selected events. It is actually the process of creating events, signifying from the vast pool of daily occurrences what is important, and that social movements have increasingly focused on the media since it plays such an influential role in assigning importance to issues facing the public. This statement is crucial in understanding the frameworks that pro-life and pro-choice groups include in their media outlets. Both groups cover the same issue, access to legal abortions in the United States. However, they both signify from the vast pool of daily occurrences what is important in entirely opposing ways. In other words, they choose different facts and situations in the world of abortion rights to outline what the problem is and what they think is the correct way in moving forward. Neither groups are wrong, and neither group provides false evidence. It is the way they pick and choose their factual evidence that frames their views, that provides their audience with the perspective that they wish to promote. First, let's take a look at how March for Life, the leading organization supporting the pro-life perspective, frames abortion and the laws regarding abortion. To begin, we'll analyze first the important word choices March for Life uses. Under their Education tab, March for Life's life principles can be accessed. In their life principles, they state, the life of each human being shall be preserved and protected from that human being's biological beginning when the father's sperm enters the mother's ovum. The choice to say that a human being's biological beginning happens when the father's sperm enters the mother's ovum frames that March for Life believes that this is when a child's life starts, and that their life should be protected by all means necessary. The life principles continue on in stating, no value distinction may be made in determining the worth and dignity of any human being. Thus, the life of an individual as a preborn child shall be preserved and protected to the same extent at any other stage of the individual's life, whether infant, teenager, or aged. The choice to use the word value here frames an unborn child's life as equal value of the mother's life, and to think otherwise would be discriminatory. The most important statement found within the March for Life Life Principles portion of their website goes as follows. Purposefully, the life principles are not framed in the negative tone of thou shalt not, and are framed in the positive tone of duty and responsibility of each human being and of society. The life principles are set in the context of our Declaration of Independence that the right to life is inalienable and endowed by our Creator. If this basic right is weakened, all other rights are meaningless. This is important in regards to their framing because by using their interpretation of the Declaration of Independence as the basis of their statement, they are attempting to give their statement credibility in the eyes of the American people. They even make reference to framing here, stating it is important to their movement to use the Declaration as their foundation rather than just the Bible, because in doing so, they include a larger audience of not only Christians, but people who may not identify heavily with the religious aspect of abortion. They do reference the Bible heavily, however, by saying we hold these truths to be self-evident that all human beings are created equal and are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights among which is the right to life. They refer to God being an authority figure, making use of an ethos appeal. God grants all humans certain unalienable rights, and that one of these rights is the right to life. By using these two credible sources, they're framing anyone that agrees with abortion or goes through the act of getting an abortion as someone who goes against the word of God in the word of our Declaration of Independence. These word choices villainize their opposition. Next, let's take a look at the symbols and images used by March for Life at their event. This photo is from the March for Life parade in Washington, D.C., 2018. They use the slogan, Babies' Lives Matter, which is important to context because another social movement going on in American society at this time is the Black Lives Matter movement. Taking their own spin on the slogan, it is more likely to resonate with its viewers once they make the connection. In this image, you can see that at 20 weeks or 5 months into a pregnancy, the woman's outlined everything that the fetus is capable of doing. They also use the feminist movement as the basis of their poster, again strongly resonating with the viewer. In Persuasion of Social Movements, it states that social movements attempt to gain legitimacy by identifying with movements that have gained a degree of legitimacy with the public and institutions. By using the two current social movements of Black Lives Matter and women's liberation, the attendees of March for Life create their own symbols and images to frame the March for Life purpose. In using these posters, they also claim they support both Black Lives Matter and women's rights in an attempt to legitimize their frame. Another thing to look for is the stylistic choices and syntax the website uses. The way they set their website up is to be completely educational. They have a homepage that has video clips playing from the March for Life rally in Washington, D.C. as a way to present all their support right off the bat. They also have a blog section, a media section, an education section, and a take action section at the top of their page. The website is easily maneuverable, and having their different sections frames their perspective as supported with facts, claims, and popularity. They use personal claims in their media section to gain their movement more credibility, using everyone from GYNs and their opinions of third trimester abortions to pro-life activists that were adopted and support the choice of adoption over abortion. They list their Take Action tab right after their Education tab, prompting their audience to take action and support them after they read over their facts in their Education section, so they take an educated stance on the matter. Now let's take a look at how the National Association to Repeal Abortion Laws, or NARAL, frames the issue of abortion in a different way. In their About tab located on their website, they state the 2 million members of NARAL Pro-Choice America fight for reproductive freedom for every person in every state. Each day we organize and mobilize to protect that freedom by fighting for access to abortion care, birth control, paid parental leave, and protections from pregnancy discrimination. Like 7 in 10 Americans, we believe abortion must remain legal and accessible. We are the foot soldiers who work to ensure that abortion access is not only protected but expanded for every American. Since 1969, our member-driven campaigns have propelled political and cultural change at every level, from the State House to the White House. NARAL's word choice frames the issue of abortion as a woman's equality issue, whereas March for Life frames it as a human morality issue. This also frames that those already born and out of the womb should be granted reproductive freedom and access to choose what they want to do with their lives, rather than giving rights to an unborn fetus. They also make the claim that their perspective is more popular than March for Life among American citizens by choosing to include that 7 in 10 Americans believe abortion must remain legal and accessible. Under their issue tabs, they state, in reference to anti-choice politicians, they've passed hundreds of laws to restrict a woman's ability to access safe, legal abortion care. These laws take many forms, including trying to outlaw abortion altogether, shutting down clinics, restricting access based on income level, and dictating which medical procedures are available. In stating this, they state abortion laws restrict women, and going under the umbrella of women's liberation, in that it is a better option for the woman to have the ability to make the choice regarding her body and her unborn child's body. Also, something to take note of, they state in their Issues tab, anti-choice extremists will stop at nothing. Instead of calling the pro-life activists pro-life, they refer to them as anti-choice extremists, villainizing the opposition. They frame anti-choice politicians as the problem getting in the way of women's rights and having control of their lives. They also bring up the viable point that some of these anti-choice extremists have even gone as far to murder doctors and bomb clinics. They frame this problem as the anti-choice extremists gaining justification from anti-choice politicians and in turn commit heinous acts against groups of people they do not agree with. Another important language aspect of NARAL's website is found in their foundation's name, NARAL Pro-Choice America. Instead of naming themselves NARAL Pro-Abortion America, they use choice instead. This shows they're not abortion supporters, they are in fact choice supporters. This frames them as understanding the miracle of life and that it is a beautiful thing for a mother to give birth, but if she is not ready, uncomfortable, not financially stable, ill, or too young to understand the responsibilities of motherhood, she should have the choice to end an unplanned pregnancy. Also, like March for Life did with the Declaration of Independence, NARAL uses the document as well, and them claiming in regards to abortion access will never stop fighting to protect and expand these fundamental human rights. Our Declaration of Independence states, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." NARAL uses the words fundamental human right. March for Life uses these same words when describing the rights of the fetus, and saying that abortion is a fundamental human right, they make reference to the Declaration of Independence, and to deny women the right to an abortion is taking away their choice as a human being in their pursuit of happiness. Both organizations use the document as part of their claim, but it's how they use it and what parts of the Declaration of Independence they utilize that frames their opinions and position on abortion. They both manipulate the information in a way that fits their needs and without lying gives each side credibility in their claims. This is an image of a poster used at the Women's March in Washington, D.C. 2017. This image supports NARAL's frame because in their issues menu, they cover that their purpose is not just to fight anti-abortion legislation, but they are also there to combat pregnancy discrimination. Under the pregnancy discrimination option, they state discrimination also affects women who are seeking new employment, as pregnant job applicants may fear that disclosing their pregnancy could cost them the job. When employers do not provide reasonable accommodations for expectant mothers, women can be forced to choose between a paycheck and starting or growing their family. This provides more reasoning behind NARAL's fight for abortion rights because in fear of not getting a job because of being pregnant, the woman may feel as if she must get an abortion to get a job, and when that option is no longer there, what is she expected to do? This poster shows not only are women shamed for being pregnant in their workplace, they're also shamed for having an abortion too. So even if the choice is there, the patriarchal society which we live in has historically taught women to not just be ashamed of abortion, but also to be ashamed of being pregnant. Here's another image from the Women's March. Let's look back at the Hyde Amendment outlined in the beginning of the TED Talk. The Hyde Amendment bans the use of federal funding for abortions. However, the state can determine if they wish to use their own funding to get women who wish to use their own funding to get women to seek out abortion coverage. According to Planned Parenthood's website, as of 2016, 17 states use their own funds to extend abortion coverage to low-income women enrolled in Medicaid, although some of these states will make it difficult to access. An additional 6 states extend abortion coverage under specific exemptions, such as when a woman's health is at risk. This means the remaining 33 states do not provide funding for a woman's choice to get an abortion. This poster highlights the Hyde Amendment because it states girls just want to have funding for Planned Parenthood. On page 77 of Persuasion of Social Movements, activists must persuade significant members of people that only collective action by uninstitutionalized groups using unconventional methods can bring about or resist change. They go on to explain that songs are utilized by social movements to awaken the discontented and that music can instill courage to demonstrate and remain nonviolent in the face of violence and arrest. In using Cyndi Lauper's hit song, the women use unconventional methods to bring about change. The song is very popular, and this allows their audience to connect with them on a deeper level, and so the slogan resonates with them. Stylistic choices that NARAL uses in their website are much like the March for Life website. NARAL has menu options at the top of their page too. They outline each section of government and what type of impact it has on the pro-choice movement, as well as a media tab where articles with facts and information can be viewed and read. This frames NARAL as having respect for education and knowledge in providing evidence behind their claims so their viewers can make an educational choice in their support for the movement. They don't want their supporters to say ignorant or false claims when they show their support for NARAL because this would discredit their organization. So with both these frames taken into consideration, where do we stand now with legislation? As of right now, the White House is supporting the frame of March for Life. In 2015, Vice President Pence spoke at March for Life and explained the Trump administration's support for the pro-life movement.
But today, 3 generations hence, because of all of you and the many thousands who stand with us in marches like this all across the nation, life is winning again in America.
President Donald Trump himself has also spoken at March for Life.
Today, tens of thousands of families, students, and patriots, and really just great citizens gather here in our nation's capital. You come from many backgrounds, many places, but you all come for one beautiful cause: to build a society where life is celebrated, protected, and cherished.
Here, by saying building a society where life is celebrated, Donald Trump is framing abortion laws as something that destroys life and impacts our country in a negative way. According to an article written by Vox.com journalist Anna North on November 21, 2018, legislators are introducing new abortion bans that directly challenge the tenets of Roe. In her article, North outlines specific bans being implemented by our current legislation. She begins by saying Donald Trump promised during his presidential campaign that he would appoint anti-abortion judges to the Supreme Court and that Roe v. Wade would be overturned automatically. In March 2018, Mississippi Governor Phil Bryant signed a bill that bans abortions after 15 weeks. This ban includes exceptions for medical emergencies and severe fatal abnormalities, but none for rape or incest. In May 2018, Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds signed a bill banning abortion as soon as a fetal heartbeat is detected, which can be as soon as 6 weeks. In November, the Ohio State of Representatives passed a bill similar to that of Iowa's. An article put out by the Lowell Sun on August 2, 2018, states that abortion advocates need to brave for a new wave of restrictions being put in place by legislation. According to the article, the sense of urgency stems from the retirement of Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy, who sometimes provided the decisive vote in support of abortion rights, and the possibility that Brett Kavanaugh, nominated by President Donald Trump to replace him, would give the court an anti-abortion majority. Justice Brett Kavanaugh, in all of the controversy surrounding the allegations of his sexual assault on Deborah Ramirez, shows he has very little support for women's rights as a whole, let alone abortion rights. Quoted by the New York Times journalist Charlie Savage in an article regarding his stance on abortion, Kavanaugh states that while the appeals court was bound to obey Supreme Court rulings that said that the Constitution protects a woman's right to choose an abortion, those precedents left the room for the government to apply reasonable regulations that do not impose an undue burden. But if Trump and Kavanaugh both support March for Life, what does a reasonable regulation mean in regards to Roe v. Wade? March for Life frames their movement as reasonable, so the Supreme Court justice has the power to fully support March for Life in overturning Roe v. Wade completely. With Donald Trump's statement he would overturn Roe v. Wade and in appointing Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, the Trump administration's ability to overturn Roe v. Wade completely is beginning to seem more likely due to their agreement with March for Life. The framing of both March for Life and NARAL has direct impact on the people in charge of this country. March for Life's argument is directly supported and reiterated by President Donald Trump and Mike Pence. March for Life's direct impression on the Trump-Pence administration can be seen through the appointment of anti-abortion advocates in legislation and the courts. In partnership, the President and Supreme Court Justice can make the decisions that impact the rights of American citizens, whether it be a woman who needs an abortion or an unborn American citizen in the womb. Our current legislation is proof that framing and the way situations are described and explained using language, images, symbols, and style have a direct impact on the lives of the citizens of the United States and what rights they have. This is why us as young social activists must remain informed of the laws being put in place and make voting decisions based on the frames, perspectives, and interpretations we agree with. That's a wrap, and thank you for coming to my TED Talk.